Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer. Okay, today we're diving into something wild, a highly specific, honestly pretty bold real estate strategy targeted directly at people trying to sell their own homes. Look, if you've ever tried doing a forced sale by owner, you know it is a massive undertaking. It takes your time, your energy, and just so much patience, right? So when a pitch comes along promising a perfectly smooth path to maximum profit, yeah, that definitely grabs our attention. We're going to break down a strategy from a real estate pro named Kevin Young Sr. It makes some really ambitious promises to independent sellers. We're going to look at what those promises actually are, the exact mechanics of how this whole thing is supposed to work, and crucially, the extremely strict conditions you need to meet to even qualify.
Let's jump right into the big one, 100%. The ultimate headline-grabbing claim here is that independent sellers can get exactly 100% of their asking price. Now, if you follow the housing market even a little bit, or if you've bought or sold a place yourself, you know that standard negotiations are all about compromise. Buyers come in low, home inspections dig up repairs that chip away at the price, or maybe the bank appraisal comes in short. Haggling is just the name of the game. But this strategy, it completely throws standard compromise right out of the window. It puts this 100% figure front and center. It's literally the absolute anchor of the entire pitch, promising that you will not have to drop your price by a single penny.
Section 1. The 100% price promise. Let's look at how they claim to pull this off. This strategy originates specifically from Kevin Young Sr. and his organization, Nationwide Real Estate Acquisitions, LLC. So this isn't just, a casual piece of advice or a quick blog post tip. It's framed as a formal, structured system offered by a specific group. They're positioning themselves as the experts holding the keys to this 100% outcome, stepping in to facilitate what is actually a very non-traditional type of real estate transaction.
Section 2. The Tire Kicker Problem.
To really get why this solution is so appealing, we have to look at the massive headache it's trying to cure. The pitch specifically calls out putting up with showing your home to tire kickers who can't secure bank financing. And wow, does that hit a nerve for sellers. Think about it. You deep clean your house, you rearrange your life, you leave for hours so strangers can poke around your closets, only to find out 3 weeks later that their mortgage got denied. Especially right now with fluctuating interest rates and super strict bank requirements, financing falls through all the time. If you're selling it yourself without an agent running interference, dealing with buyers that banks won't touch is just downright exhausting.
The text sets up a really stark contrast here. On one side, you've got those classic tire kickers, the folks stuck in the traditional banking maze who just end up wasting your time. But on the other side, you have this highly targeted group that the strategy calls serious home buyers. And the big hook? These serious buyers aren't just capable of closing the deal, they're supposedly willing to pay that full asking price, no haggling required. It basically frames your choice as a seller. You can either stick with the traditional headache or pivot to this new method and unlock those full-price buyers.
Section 3. What is seller finance? Because this is the absolute secret sauce. So how do we actually cross that bridge from the frustrating traditional market over to this promised land of full-price buyers? The text introduces a role called a temporary seller finance specialist, positioning Kevin Young Sr. right in that spot. But wait, what actually is seller finance? Okay, this is absolutely crucial to understand. Normally, a buyer goes to a bank, begs for a mortgage, and the bank eventually cuts the seller a massive check. Then the buyer pays the bank back for, 30 years. But with seller financing, you, the seller, temporarily act as the bank. You don't get a giant lump sum right up front. Instead, the buyer gives you a down payment directly and then pays you monthly with interest over an agreed period. The specialist is just the person who structures this alternative legal contract so you can completely bypass the bank and all those infuriating delays.
Once you grasp that, you see exactly how they reach that 100% price goal. By leveraging seller finance, you literally cut the bank's red tape out of the equation. No more bank appraisers showing up to say your house is worth less than what the buyer offered, killing the deal. Because you're the one extending the credit and doing a massive favor for a buyer who probably wants to avoid the bank themselves, you hold all the cards. You have immense leverage to dictate the terms, you provide the financing, and in return, the buyer agrees to your absolutely non-negotiable asking price. It totally flips the power dynamic.
Section 4. Qualifying for the program. Because, yeah, there's a catch.
Look, a guaranteed full asking price sounds amazing, but this is definitely not a blanket offer for everyone. There are some incredibly strict conditions you've got to meet first. Step 1, your home must be owned free and clear, meaning zero mortgage. Why? Well, if you still owe money to a bank, they have a primary lien and usually a due-on-sale clause. You legally can't just offer seller financing if your old bank technically still owns a piece of the pie. Step 2, the property has to be completely move-in ready. Think about it.
A buyer paying top dollar, plus potentially higher interest rates because it's seller financed, expects perfection. They're absolutely not looking for a weekend DIY project or a fixer-upper.
The whole pitch boils down to a super strict if-then scenario. It's built on some serious gatekeeping. If your property is completely mortgage-free, and if it's utterly flawless and move-in ready, then, and only then, can you use this seller finance trick to demand 100% of your asking price. If you have even a tiny mortgage left, or if your gutters need replacing, this entire strategy is off the table, period. The promise is massive for sure, but the barrier to entry is so high that it filters out the vast majority of normal home sellers.
Section 5. The Nationwide FSBO Network. Let's look at the actual scope of this thing.
You might think this is just some hyperlocal strategy, but Nationwide Real Estate Acquisitions LLC is casting a massive net. They're looking to collaborate with for-sale-by-owner properties across the entire country. And honestly, when you remember those strict prerequisites we just talked about, going nationwide is the only thing that makes sense. Trying to find a home being sold directly by the owner with literally zero debt that is also in absolute mint condition, that's like finding a needle in a haystack. By taking this nationwide, they dramatically scale up their odds of finding those exact perfectly positioned properties that fit their specific seller finance model.
Which brings us to our final thought for this explainer. We've dug into that uncompromising 100% price promise. We've looked at the very real frustrations of traditional, unfundable buyers, and we've unpacked how temporary seller financing works, along with the incredibly strict if-then criteria needed to actually pull it off. So knowing that you absolutely must have a completely mortgage-free, completely move-in-ready property, does your home fit the precise needle-in-a-haystack profile required to bypass the banks and secure exactly 100% of your asking price? It's a fascinating, highly targeted alternative to the traditional market. Really makes you think differently about how real estate can work. Thanks so much for joining me to unpack this today.